Hey, Battle Bill, here with another video, and today we're actually moving on, getting into some practice Go Battle League battles. Little Cup got old real quick for me, and I'm just ready for a regular Great League meta where I have Pokemon made already because of the fact that I'm very low on Stardust. So I'm excited for the Kanto Cup. By the time this video comes out, Kanto Cup will be coming out on Monday, November 16th, so it'll be like a day or two away, and I want to get into some practice battles, showcase some Pokemon that I'm expecting to either be meta or just have a lot of play in Kanto Cup, and then maybe tomorrow's video before the Kanto Cup starts, I'll try to drop a video on potential budget picks that you could use or should already have made so that this week is a cheaper week for you, considering Little Cup was pretty expensive. Even if you tried to take the cheap route and use Pokemon that only had single moves, you still had to make some power-ups here and there. Whereas for Kanto Cup, I'm hoping it'll be the cheapest investment out of all 3 leagues in Season 5 for you guys. Because then we get the Catch Cup, and there you're forced to make new Pokemon and potentially buy third moves on those also. So this season, as much as it's been a little bit less competitive because they kind of just handed Rank 10 out, it's definitely been a more expensive season. So I'm looking forward to Season 6 and some regular leagues coming back so I don't have to make as many investments. Now, funny enough, for Kanto Cup, as much as it's going to be a cheaper cup for you guys, hopefully, I made some investments. I made myself my Alolan Marowak with Shadow Bone. I made a Galvanria Rapidash because I'm excited about that, and I also made my first Legacy Dugong because I am expecting to have a bit of play. Now, the main meta Pokemon you're going to need to look out for is Hypno, and it's not going to be as meta as Bronzor was in Little Cup, but I'm pretty confident you're going to see Hypno in a majority of battles in Kanto Cup for 2 reasons. It's the best Pokemon for Kanto Cup for this week, and second reason, a lot of people have Hypnos made from previous seasons of Great League. Hypno is a staple in the Great League meta. It serves really well as a safe swap in typical Open Great League, and here it serves a similar purpose, except for the fact that it's going to be really hard to counter. Now, some good options, ironically, to counter Hypno are Pokemon that aren't actually Kanto Pokemon, because if you don't know this, I'll inform you, you should expect to be able to use certain Galarian versions and Alolan versions of Pokemon in the Kanto Cup. Now, it wasn't in the announcement, but based on the way that I think it's the coding, the way Niantic codes, essentially every Alolan version of a Kanto Pokemon is in the Kanto portion of the Pokedex in the game. So because of that, when they try to limit you to only Kanto Pokemon, you still have the Alolan version that you can use. So the biggest counter you're going to want to use is Alolan Muck. That'll be the greatest pick to off-put all those Hypnos you're going to be running into. I picked about 5 to 7 Pokemon, I think, and I did a set of battles up against a fellow Twitch streamer and a fellow Long Island native, a close friend of mine by the name of Nick228. The link to his Twitch is going to be in the description. I really appreciate him for helping me out with these practice battles. We both tried a bunch of different Pokemon, so you're not going to see the usual stats. You're just going to see the Pokemon I chose from for practice today, and I'll go through which ones I consider higher meta, which might be a little spice, and which ones I'd recommend the most. So, if you're excited for this Kanto Cup action, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and let's start watching and checking out these battles. My friend Nick228 is an extremely high-level opponent, so these made for some really great practice battles in prep for this portion of the season. Again, Nick, thanks so much, and I highly recommend you check out his channel. He's a great PvPer and Twitch streamer. Getting into this first match, I got the Dugong on the Hypno lead, and honestly, I have no idea how this matchup plays out, but what I was expecting from his Hypno was from to throw a Fire Punch there. Now, the only reason why I expected that was because of the fact that PvPoke suggests you run your Hypno with Fire Punch and Shadow Ball, and I'm not 100% sure the reasoning on that. So if somebody wants to inform me, by all means, go ahead. But I know PvPoke says so, and all hail PvPoke when it comes to its move suggestions. But of course, Hypno's a Swiss Army knife of Great League in general, and you can honestly get away with it running a majority of its movesets. But I had shielded the first one because I'm throwing Icy Winds with Dugong. This is also my first time using Dugong, so I don't know its matchups too well. So I was really hoping that, with that debuff and I shield the first move, it doing less damage, I might be able to win this, and we play it really close. So we get to another charge move. I'm 1 Ice Shard short of an Icy Wind. I'm fully expecting a Slender Punch, but I was expecting to survive, and I did survive, and I was really hoping a Ice Shard would have went through on the charge move, so I could have gotten to that last Icy Wind and potentially won that matchup out. I didn't realize the Dugong on Hypno matchup was so close, and honestly, one, if he was running Fire Punch, I would have won that matchup, and two, if I would have been able to sneak in an extra Ice Shard, which kind of happens because the game mechanic can be a bit flawed here and there, I could have been able to pull that one out, or at least grab his last shield. Now, he comes in with Shadow Machamp, and considering he has a shield and Shadow Machamp is glassy, I go for the bait there, and he calls my bait, which is huge, because I'm pretty confident Sludge Wave would have put either Machamp super low or one-shot it. So I really did not expect for him not to shield that, so it was a great call on his end, and then I just swap in the Hypno to try and chunk down Machamp's health as much as I can. He swaps into his Hypno counter, which ends up being Alolan Muck, and this match is looking like GG because he made such a great call there. So I'm just going to pull this one out, or play this one out, and you can see how great of a counter Alolan Muck is for Hypno, because he threw that Dark Pulse, it got me super low. I'm going to be throwing these Fire Punches, like I said, PV Poke suggested it, but again, Fire Punch and Thunder Punch and Ice Punch all would have been doing the same damage here. They all would have been neutral to Alolan Muck. I'm pretty sure they all have the same stats. They're all punches. I would hope they'd all have the same stats. Something always tells me that they don't, but I'll go and double check in between segments, go and confirm that or not. But regardless, he ends up snarling me down and ends up having a bunch of energy. He's going to be able to come into Shadow Machamp, and now he's going to be able to take me out essentially. Even though I'm going to throw his Dark Pulse, he's going to end up shielding it, and he's going to be able to counter me down before I get to another charge move. He actually goes for his charge move. He could have countered me down. Either way, he was winning. So I'm like, let me let this through, because if I shield it, he's just going to counter and beat me regardless, and that's GG's in the first match. Alright, I went and confirmed, yes, all elemental punches doing the same damage in neutral matchups. So, change the team up a bit, running with a completely different team of 3 versus the last match, and we have what looks like a positive lead. I have Wigglytuff on Haunter, and this is positive because I'm double resisting all the ghost moves coming through from the Haunter, and even though these charms are resisted because of Haunter's poison typing, they still chunk away because Haunter's so glassy. I still end up shielding here because if it's a Sludge Bomb, I'm going to regret not shielding, and unfortunately he Shadow Punch baits me, which was a solid play on his end. He safe swaps into Kangaskhan, and I'm like, you know what? I definitely can't bring in a Alolan Marowak here because the Mud Slaps would slap Marowak down, so I'm going to definitely need to go into Dragonair. But I want to help my Dragonair out and potentially grab his shield like I just did. Now he gets to a charge move here, and Kangaskhan has some very odd moves, so I don't know how much play it's going to have in Kanto Cup, but it has a charge move Power Up Punch, and then like a huge charge move like Outrage, and it might get access to some other stuff, but you'd rather not run it. And then again, its quick move is Mud Slap, so I guess the main play is for it to really take down Marowaks or Haunters, because the Mud Slaps would be super effective, and also the Power Up Punches will allow the Mud Slaps to do even more damage. But then I brought in, like I said, Dragonair, took care of the Kangaskhan. He comes back in with his he comes in with his own Wigglytuff, not back in. This is the first time we're seeing his Wigglytuff, and he charms me down, but I have a good answer for his Wigglytuff, especially because of the fact that its health is about a third of the way down. I can come in with a Alolan Marowak here and just be careful of the Haunter coming back in, which is why I wait out the switch timer. Haunter comes in at the perfect timing though, because I get to the Bone Club, I don't have to worry about a potential another Shadow Punch or Shadow Ball coming through, and I can swap into Wigglytuff. Now, I feel more comfortable in this situation because the Shadow Punch bait kind of just told me that he's running Shadow Ball also, because if he pulls a bait off, you definitely don't want to swap out right after. So, Shadow Ball came through, I charmed down the Haunter. His Wigglytuff's going to come in, charm me down, but I'm going to end up taking this match because I have a shield, my Marowak has a bunch of health, the Fire Spins are going to chunk, and I'm going to land the Bone Club here, which will finish it off in just a moment. He's going to go for his charge move, I'm going to shield it, I'm not going to flex on him. He beat me the first match, we really had some jabs going back and forth. Honestly, it was a lot of fun, and we both made some mistakes throughout these matches because that's the whole point of practice. So, it was really exciting. I like Alolan Marowak's play in this cup, and again, that's a weird one to say because Marowak is Alolan. This version is Alolan, not the Kanto version. The Kanto version I don't think really has any play in this cup, funny enough. But yes, based on the coding, you should be able to use Pokemon like Alolan Marowak, Alolan Muck, and Galarian Rapidash. I don't see that changing before Kanto Cup actually happens. Oh, and another Alolan's going to have some play in the Kanto Cup is Alolan Sandslash. As an Ice and Steel type, it'll do pretty well up against the dragons like Dragonair and Dragonite, and it'll have some play up against the Charmers because of, again, if it's Steel typing. Now, getting into this next match, funny enough, in between clips, I went to go check PvP Poke really quickly just to get a little refresher on some information, and it turns out the rankings changed, literally since earlier today when I did these battles, and the suggested move, Hypno still stays at the top, but the suggested moveset on Hypno is Thunder Punch and Shadow Ball, which again makes more sense to me just based on the fact that you want to have something to deal with those water types. You're not going to be running into too many steel types other than Alolan Sandslash. I'm like trying to think, I don't even think steel types are in this meta. Oh, Magneton, but originally when Kanto was released, it was just an electric type. I'm getting on such a tangent. The point is, having Thunder Punch to at least try to put super effective damage on the Laprases and the Dugongs, on top of the fact that it'll be neutral against a lot of other things, is definitely the preferred moveset to have there, which made the most sense to me at first, but, you know, in PV Poke, we trust, as always. Also, I played this matchup terribly. I thought I could Confusion down the Lapras, and when he got to that last surf, I'm like, I can't go down with all this energy after I committed a shield, so I committed the second shield. And then he comes in with his hardest Hypno counter, which is a Alolan Muck, so I'm like, oh my god, I can't get Snarl down, so I save swap in the Shadow Machamp, and he's got a Charmer in the back. Now, Shadow Machamp is going to have a lot of play in this cup, but a few things about Shadow Machamp, obvious things. It doesn't want to see Charmers, and using it as a safe swap is not a great option in this cup because Hypnos are going to be everywhere, and Hypno is going to be a very favorable safe swap. So that was just a terrible decision, terrible play on my end. And honestly, me committing that lead matchup is pretty much where I had lost the match. But either way, let's watch the rest of this play out. We can see how this Alolan Sandslash and Clefable matchup goes. He's going to end up going for the Meteor Mash here because it's going to deal neutral damage against Alolan Sandslash, and it gets me pretty low, but you'll notice that it could tank the Charms decently. The Meteor Mash is what did a majority of the damage there. I get to these Ice Pit Punches pretty quickly, and they're quite spammy, doing a nice chunk. Clefable's a chunky Pokemon, and it got it in the red there with that Ice Punch. We both swap, and I go for this Fire Punch because I'm just, you know, grasping onto straws as we play out the rest of this matchup. But, you know, you want to see how much a Fire Punch does. You never know. Maybe you want to run Fire Punch. I definitely recommend Thunder Punch. It would have done the same amount of damage there because it would have been neutral, and they have the same stats. Like I said, check that earlier. And now Alolan Muck's going to Dark Pulse my Alolan Sandslash, and that's going to be GG, and I'm going to lose this match. But that is what it is. Solid practice. Lesson learned. Hypno if I decide to run it as a lead, because honestly I don't have a specific 3 that I plan on using quite yet. Like, that's why we're messing around with a bunch of Pokemon here. But we run into that Hypno Lapras lead, you cannot Confusion down in that situation, so we learned that going forward. It also didn't help that I didn't have Thunder Punch on my Hypno and I was running Fire Punch. So we're going to have to revisit that matchup when I have Thunder Punch on my Hypno and play it out. Getting into this next match, I want to use my Dugong. I literally used 2 Elite TMs because they started to build up, and I'm like, you know, I think it's about time I make a Legacy Dugong. I think it's going to have, like I said, a lot of play in this cup, but I'm not running into the best matchups here. The Hypno, it said on PvP Poke I could beat it, but we saw earlier, I did not beat that Hypno with my Dugong, and now up against an Alolan Marowak isn't a great matchup because I think I'm taking neutral damage from all the Fire Spins. They're starting to chunk, and then all my Ice damage ain't doing much, so I go straight for the Water Pulse. Thankfully, he didn't shield because I guess he expected me to bait with an Icy Wind for the debuff, and then I safe swap in the Dragonair. Now, the Dragons are going to have some play just because outside of the Charmers, not too many Pokemon are going to be dealing super effective damage to them. I guess Alolan Sandslash also, but again, this is the Kanto Cup. Weren't really expecting Ice types, but that Ice type would be there. I guess Articuno, technically. I wonder how much play something like Articuno will have. But again, Dragonair specifically, very oppressive with its Dragon Breath damage. It's quite glassy, so even though both of our Dragonairs went down there, I was able to farm it up a bit with my Dugong and build up to an Icy Wind for when his Zapdos came in. And Zapdos is not, I'm going to say, not the best option to go up against Dugong. Zapdos is super glassy, it's taking super effective damage from all these Ice Shards, and the Icy Winds are practically going to one-shot them. And as long as I have a shield, which I have here, I'll be able to shield this Drill Peck, and I've pretty much gotten to the next Icy Wind. And he was probably close to another Drill Peck there, but not close enough, because obviously I got to my charge from first. I was able to take out the Zapdos. The Alolan Marowak's coming back in, and just considering how low it is, I'm feeling comfortable just swapping right into Hypno, but you'll get to see how much a Shadow Ball does from Alolan Marowak onto a Hypno, and it does a good chunk. Now, Shadow Bone would do less, but Shadow Bone could definitely get a defense debuff, and honestly, I think the argument for either move could be made here for Alolan Marowak, just because Shadow Bone would have did less in that situation. Then again, Shadow Ball wasn't enough. But we're going to see in the next matchup, I'm not going to be happy with the fact that I decided to run Alolan Marowak with Shadow Bone. And also, of course, for the 5th match of this set, I had to save it for the spiciest Pokemon that I plan to mess around with in the Kanto Cup, and that is Galarian Rapidash. So I put together a team. I tried to be unique in the Pokemon I was using around it. I didn't want to be basic and go Galarian Rapidash and then Hypno and then Alolan Muck. I feel like that's going to be a common team of 3 you see, so I decided to go with Alolan Muck still, and I think I went with Dragonair as my 3rd Pokemon. But I tried Galarian Rapidash in the lead. It runs a quick move of Psycho Cut, charges with Body Slam, and Play Rough. So it's going to do really well against the Dragons, it's going to do really well against Machamp, and it's going to do just about that. And then hopefully in other situations that you put it in, even though it'll lose, at least it'll be able to spam body slams a lot because it gets them really quick. So this matchup, awesome. Beautiful lead. You love to see it. He safe swaps into Alolan Muck. Oh, I didn't run Dragonair. I ran Alolan Marowak. I apologize. I was kind of just speaking through and I wasn't looking at the screen as I was picking my Pokemon, and I forgot what I picked as my third Pokemon. But I picked Alolan Marowak to try and close out this game. So he came in with Alolan Muck there, and I had to body slam just to put some chip damage onto his Alolan Muck to make sure that my Alolan Muck had a chance of winning this swap in. Because if I would have swapped immediately, we would have been at similar health. Snarls aren't doing anything to one another, and I would have been behind on energy, which meant I would have probably lost switch advantage from there. Also, what my friend here should have done was, I think the first charge move, unless he was trying to bait me, he probably should have went for the Sludge Wave, because between the Sludge Wave and the Dark Pulse, it would have been like enough to take out my Alolan Muck, but maybe he expected me to shield. But at this point, I'm ahead of him on energy, so if he does decide to shield here, I'm still going to be able to outpace him to every Dark Pulse, unless he sneaks through some Snarls, and I should be able to keep switch advantage here, which is going to be key in potentially trying to win this match. But he ends up shielding. He's going for another charge move. I'm going to shield. My goal, obviously, keep Galarian Rapidash lined up with Machamp. Galarian Rapidash is its main use is going to be beating those Machamps, so I don't want it going up against too much else. So we're spamming Dark Pulses back and forth, uses another shield there, but then he swaps. He pulls a really good play to try and counter down my my Muck with his Machamp, but I was able to get my Muck out just in time because Muck's a pretty beefy boy, and go back into Galarian Rapidash. I fully expected this to be a Rock Slide. Thankfully I called it because a Rock Slide would have probably taken out Galarian Rapidash's health there. And now the Cycle Cuts you can already see alone have done like half of Machamp's health, so I don't need to throw super effective Play Rough at the Machamp to take it out. Body Slam was plenty on top of the fact Machamp is glassy, but I make a huge mistake there. You see how I clicked the Body Slam? I wasn't trying to farm this thing down because I knew I wasn't going to be able to, but I was trying to overfarm a little bit, and me getting greedy cost me because I had the Body Slam for when the Alolan Muck came in. I wish I would have had my Galarian Rapidash here because it could have done some extra chip damage. As much as all of its moves would have been resisted by Marowak, it still could have helped because when I go for this Shadow Bone here, you're going to notice it doesn't do enough to take out the Alolan Marowak. If I had Shadow Ball, I would have won this match. But I had Shadow Bone, and I lost this match. So depending on how you want to use your Alolan Marowak in the Kanto Cup, see how much that Shadow Ball did? Yeah, it won my friend here this match. So be careful in your team building when using Alolan Marowak. I think you'd prefer to have Shadow Bone if you're going to run it as a lead, and then in closing situations you definitely want Shadow Ball for that exact reason. Now, I could have technically tried to avoid that loss if I didn't overfarm a Galarian Rapidash against Alolan Muck, but that is what it is. Lessons are learned, and that's what the practice is for. Nick228, I appreciate the battles again as always. It was such a pleasure, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching these also. Those were honestly some really great practice battles, and again, I highly recommend you check out Nick228's Twitch channel. Link is in the description. Go show him some love. He absolutely deserves it. He's been grinding, he's been kicking butt in GBL, and he's been putting in that work with the stream. So, let me know what teams and what Pokemon you're planning to run for the Kanto Cup. I still haven't settled on a team. These are an assortment of Pokemon that I will definitely be putting together into one team, but I still have some time to decide, and I'm really excited for this specific week of Season 5. Then we can hopefully zoom past Catch Cup and get into Season 6, because I'm looking forward to that. Honestly, I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do about Catch Cup, because I'm down to like 200,000 dust, so me making new Pokemon for that week is not going to be an easy thing, but I also don't want to stop putting out content. So if you guys have good sets in Catch Cup, feel free to submit those as fast as you can. And also, I do want to apologize to those of you that submitted me Little Cup battles as soon as you could, because I appreciate the heck out of y'all really helping me out. So I got a lot of submissions I wasn't able to get to. I had a lot of stuff going on my end that made me pretty busy, and I only did like 2 or 3 videos on Little Cup, and then honestly I just got so over Little Cup that I really just want to move on into Kanto Cup, and I hope you guys can forgive me. I would love your Catch Cup submissions, so please do forgive me because I want to check out those battles. Other than that, before we get to Catch Cup, let me know more about how you're feeling about Kanto Cup and what you're planning to run, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.